instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Good morning again and welcome to the program Pan-African Friday, program that comes to you every other Friday at such a time in the morning to look at issues that affect people of Africa, those who are living within this beautiful continent, but also those who are living outside of this continent. And again, I welcome you to the discussion. Of course, last time we were here with Ndugu Garama and the Ndugu Awich, and we are looking at the issues of religion and the African community. Do we as Africans have a religion, or do we have even a belief in ourselves? And if we have a religion, what type of religion do we subscribe to as the people of Africa? Or do we enjoy other beliefs and religions that we have been exposed to over time? James Mutute is my name. The studio, I have, as usual, Ndugu Rugarama, and also I have Dr. Kojo. Now, Dr. Kojo will talk to us himself to know who Dr. Kojo is. Apparently, today, Ndugu Awich, the chief, has, this morning he was telling me, is on the next flight to go to China. Yeah, and I was asking, I was telling him that last time you were in Nairobi, you caused trouble. This time when you go to China, I think you not cause trouble again, but we were just joking. So in the studio, I'm with Ndugu Rugarama and Ndugu Dr. Kojo, who will be talking to you. Last time we were looking at issues of religion, and we were looking at the African religion, and we were seeing that Africa didn't have a common religion, but it had a common belief that the Africans were believing in a supreme, supernatural, all-powerful God. And they were doing the worshipping in different ways, depending on which area they were coming from, which region they were coming from, which ethnicity they belonged to. So today, of course, at some point here, we discussed the issues of religion, Christianity, and Islam. And of course, that information is there on YouTube. If you're interested, you'll find what we discussed, and you can also make a contribution to that, so that in the subsequent programs we can also look at it. When you look at the Pan-African Friday on YouTube, you'll find that information there. So today we back to religion and want to look at what religion is. Last time we were defining religion as belief, and it also goes with practices. So today we're looking at the African religion. Did Africa, first of all, have a religion? And we want to look at that. Ndugu Rugarama, I will begin with you on that. Do we see Africa as having had a religion or still having a religion up to date?
Thank you so much, Comrade Mtuta. And I'm very pleased once again to meet my brother, Comrade Kojo Abrode. It has been a while, really. But he's no stranger to our world. And by our world, I mean the Pan-African world. I find him a very great guy. And I hope that our audience is going to enjoy his submissions. Now, having said that, last time, our brother, retired Major Awichi Pola, went to great length to define Christianity, religion, and I think we had at least put our fingers on as to whether Africa had religion and how Christianity played in that equation. And by the time we left, we had made a conclusion that actually even Christianity itself, by the way, is an African belief, is an African thing.
Religion, that's true.
The difference being that like so many things which were stolen from Africa by the white man,
except the
pyramids that could not be easily lifted. But I believe now that they have got the planes and other means that they can take them, you never know. Maybe just because Egypt is developing into another satellite state, they will also take them at one time. We pray that does not happen in our lifetime. Now, Christianity was an African belief. But it was, we no longer have it. Why I say so is that when they managed to steal it, they took it, they rebranded it. When they rebranded it, they brought it back. The format in which they brought it back, in which it is currently, is not ours. This Christianity you have here is not ours. And that is why the present Christianity is at majority of the times at odds to fight what actually the African beliefs, the African religions preach. That is why you find that in Christianity they will be casting out the so-called demons. They will be chasing away the spirits, they call them bad spirits of the forefathers. They will refrain us from naming our children, giving our children names of the great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers, because they consider those ones to be associated with curse. They will be, even up to now, Christianity stops the African beliefs, the African religion, because Christianity is also a white man's belief, the way of worshiping, the way of approaching God.
But I think on that one, I'm not cutting you short. On that one, I don't think I blame whoever is doing whatever you are saying. Reason being that even the Africans were also casting out demons in their own way.
What I'm saying, actually, yes, you are now actually rendering credence to my point. I'm saying, if that was the case and we were doing that, so what is that the Christianity is now bringing to insinuate that it has got much bigger powers? The devil, and the devil in this particular case is African. Because everything that the African espouses, if we are approaching God, and the way we approach God is by, for instance, one of the big trees in the compound, they will say we are worshiping trees. If, for instance, we are approaching the God of the water and you go to the lake, the Christianity chases that one away. And if for instance, you do not, and it even goes further, by the way, because you see, the Christianity we are talking about, whether under the auspices of Catholicism or Roman Catholic denomination, whether Orthodox, whether Anglican, whether, because we talked about religions, whether Islam is a sign of conquer. The African man was conquered not only militarily, but also socially, culturally, and all that he stood for, his relationship with God, how he approached God was also captured and conquered. And they introduced what, for instance, let me bring it home here, that if you went as Mututa, forget about James, business, Daniel, business, whatever, and you went as Mututa, as a man from the mountains, with your beads around yourself, the anklets and what have you, and you went to a conventional church, they will chase you from the main gate. Yeah. Why? They want you to dress as a European. That is only how and when God can recognize you. Now, this is what Kajabago Karsoke used to say. The present day Christianity projects God as if he is the most confused being, and yet he is not. Because you see, if God created the African man in the way he created him, the African woman in the way he created him, after all, the Bible itself is very clear. Unless, of course, somebody who brought this Christianity or the other beliefs, be it Islam, didn't read, let's restrict ourselves to the Bible, for instance, didn't read the Bible itself. They say in the Bible, there is no Jew, there is no Gentile, we are all children of God. How come that in order for this particular God to understand me, the African person, whom he created uniquely, differently from that white man, I must first of all wear the beliefs of the white man in order to be understood? That's why I want to conclude this one by saying that I have a feeling, therefore, that this Christianity, this religion, be it Catholic, Anglican, Presbyterian, whatever you want to look at it, is nothing but a form of dominance. The ability, because I want to believe that even tomorrow, if the Chinese, the way they are bringing their economic muscle here, establish themselves properly, they will also impose their own religion, be it Buddhism or Confucianism or whatever they call it, and we shall forget Christianity. So God, therefore, will be as the God that we are going to be worshipping is going to be in relation to the economic means of that very person that would have brought that particular God. In other words, therefore, we are walking a very difficult journey. That in our Africans, the way we believed and knew God, we are constantly trying to reconcile ourselves and move to establish our relationship with our Creator through the lenses of the white man, and that is nothing else but cultural, religious, colonial dominance.
Yes, thanks, and Uguru Garama. And of course, again, what you are raising are issues to do with more based on religion and Christianity. Of course, there is a lot, dimension expands beyond, of course, on that. When you talk about religion, you are talking about many other religions.
And even if we went to Islam, by the way, I restricted myself to Christianity because Islam is also another form of dominance. This is not the African religion itself.
Yeah, of course, that is true. But you also realize at the same time that when you look at religion, none of, maybe with the exception of the Roman Catholic, which was a Roman Empire religion, the Christian is founded in the African continent and the context, and also Islam at the same time. When you look at the holy books, when you read, you realize that Islam, for example, a lot of stories are told about the African person, the African man and the woman. And even those that are told outside of Africa are still having the African character.
There is just a small comment there, Comrade Mututa. Then maybe my brother will come in here. I know he has quite a lot in that regard. You see, even these other affiliations, be it Presbyterian, be it Greek Orthodox, be it this Anglican, they have got a lot to do with the very people who prophesied the same. If the Roman Catholic, I mean the Roman Catholic were so bored that you will hear the word Roman in there. And it is very unfortunate. But even when you come here, what is so worrying is that even when you come on the African continent, and you will hear somebody referring to himself and herself as Roman Catholic. We are not even bothered. Forget the fact that there is no Roman here, but that you are Roman Catholic. In the same breath, you will find somebody saying he's an Orthodox, and we all know where Orthodox Catholicism came from. So at the end of the day, our relationship, my conclusion is that if anybody knows God, it is the African man.
Now, the African God is an African, is a universal God.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at the African religion, Africa did not have an African universal religion in terms of belief and practice. But whichever grouping they belonged to, they had a way of worship there. Now, Africans were looking at phenomenon, big things that could not be explained, and to them, they would then remember that this must have been a power of God. In fact, to the extent sometimes they would go ahead, like you talked of a tree, to use that as their shrine where to worship God. But even when you look at bigger things, you know, the West, sometimes when they fail to understand certain things, they will come up with a theory to answer that. Africans were not doing that. Africans will relate it directly to God. Now, when you look at you talked about the pyramids, that if it were possible, one would have put them on a ship or a plane and flown them. But I can tell you that they are trying to find out the engineer who was behind the ingenuity of the Great Pyramids. And trust me, if that engineer happens to be one, will not be an African. They will have to come with him from somewhere, which will not be the case. But, so, when you look at these holy places, including the pyramids, because they have also now become a place of worship, people are coming from all over the place to see the ingenuity, to see the technology, to see the craftsmanship that put up this. And then, of course, other things that we will be looking at. But before we go that, let's look at here what Nduku Kojo talks about this African religion. Did Africa, in the first place, have religion? And if they had it, what was the practice? Who is Dr. Kojo, first of all, to our viewer who is seeing you on this station as of now?
Thank you very much, my comrades, my brothers. I'm Dr. Kojo Ablodi. I come from the colonial resource enclave called Ghana. And I live and work in Uganda now. I am a development consultant.
Okay.
Yeah. And thank you for having me on this program.
Are they hearing him?
I hope they are hearing you. Dr. Kojo from all the way from Ghana.
Yeah, but I live and work in Uganda. But the point is, I define myself as an African.
That's the most important part of it.
It is not that is the fact. Why? Because Ghana, Uganda, They were created in 1884, not long ago.
Sure.
But I was been there before those creations were made. So I define myself first and foremost as an African before these divisions found me here.
Okay.
We will discuss that maybe some other time.
At some point, yes.
However, this topic is a very, very interesting one. I'm getting the angle from which you have been coming from the previous programs, and I think it is very, very important that it is discussed. I have the principle that, look, if you want to understand something, if you want to know something, you can only understand it clearly if you tackle it from the source,
Sure.
where it is coming from. You know, there's this whole thing about Africa that we need to understand. Africa's problems today, most of it, the majority, especially the confusion we see, is coming from colonialism. It's coming from what? Colonization. Now, if somebody wants to colonize you, the person must weaken you, make you weak, so that you can't resist. You see it in the slave trade. I was in Benin not long ago. They took us to the slave trade site. And these slaves, they keep them in a place and starve them, lock their mouth with metal and lock it around their neck. Starve them for 3 days to make them weak so they cannot resist. Now, religion is one of the pillars of colonization. To weaken your spirituality, to make you weak so that the colonizer can manipulate you and take advantage of you. Now, Karl Marx, in one of his writings, said, religion is the opium of the mind.
Yeah.
Right? What did he mean by that? Africans, and I want it to be very clear, our viewers, to understand that Africans by nature are not religious. Religion is not our thing, it's not our topic. Africans are spiritual. And there is difference between spirituality and religion. Right? Spirituality is part of us. My name is Kojo Ablode. I am Kojo because I was born on a Monday. And where I come from, every day has spiritual significance. And I think it's in all African societies.
Yeah.
And I am born on a Monday, so I am called Kojo. I don't have an English name because I'm not an Englishman. Now, if you're born on a Tuesday, you're Kwabena. You hear names like Kwame Nkrumah. Those are Saturday-born males. And the females also have their names. My name has a spiritual significance that I am connected with naturally. You realize that in Africa, our relationship, how do we even create a relationship with God? Like you said, phenomenon. That is why we have totems. People moving from one place to another, they got lost, they are hungry, they find a monkey, which leads them to a forest, and they find bananas, and they get food. The monkey becomes their totem. It is not by anything. But all monkeys don't do that to all societies. We as individuals come from families. The families come together, they form clans, and they form villages, and they become a tribe, and they are defined by one, the language they speak, which is part of their culture. So therefore, perception of the Creator, the Almighty, becomes part of the culture of a society. That is why different cultures look at the Supreme Being differently. And I want to make it very clear. Whatever you don't have cannot have a name in your language.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
These phones we have, if you ask people what is the local name of a phone, they will they will describe it.
Yeah, because
SIM.
it's not them.
Yeah, because they will describe it by the card in it, which is the SIM card. So they call the whole phone SIM. Whatever you don't have cannot have a name in your language. Bottom line. Therefore, if you have a name in your language for God, it means that your ancestors knew before colonization that there
Just
is
information, Dr.
God.
Kojo. Actually, on that, I didn't want this point to just run away. You remember the letter which was written and given to the so-called missionaries that were in a DRC.
Yes.
That letter recognized the fact that the people in Congo actually knew God.
Africans.
Yes, definitely.
You see?
Yeah.
And
And they had a very strong belief.
absolutely.
Yes.
And they said, don't waste time on teaching them
God.
something
They already
which they already know.
I like that.
You see? Go ahead, my brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
So
much.
if the ministry, knowing God, spirituality is talking about,
Yes.
we were already 100%, even better than them, of
He
course.
said, just go ahead and
Do
group
what we
them
want you to
differently,
do.
teach them different things,
Yeah.
tell them that it is important for them to forget earthly things and focus on what is in heaven.
Oh, dead.
Yeah, thank you very much, comrade. You see, this whole thing, sometimes when I look at it, it just makes me laugh. Colonization has reduced us to a position where we don't question anything. Whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense, I reduce that to not reasoning. Because for me, reasoning is questioning anything that is not clear to you, and explore it and get a deep understanding of what it is by your own definition.
Coming back to that point again, as Africans, what are we being taught then?
In our schools.
Already, if it means knowing God, and if we take that letter serious, and we should, that we knew, we knew God better than anyone
If
else.
you don't know it, God will not have a name in your language. It's as
Exactly.
simple as that.
Yes.
If you don't have any relationship with God,
So-
there is no way God will have a name in your language.
The difference is that the white man is presenting this particular God differently, and he's saying the way you were approaching God, you the African person, is not the correct way. You can imagine somebody who practiced slave trade, somebody who practiced direct colonialism, somebody who killed millions. One person, a leopard, killed millions, about 20 in Congo, and others also, white men killing so many elsewhere on the African continent. They are the ones telling you how to approach God. This God, chances are, is not ours.
No, the point is this. Our circumstances are different. Okay, before Christ was born, was there Christianity?
Let's go there.
Before Jesus Christ was born, was there Christianity?
No, there was no Christianity.
What
So
does
what were
that
the
mean?
people doing?
There was no Christianity because there was no Christ.
Before Muhammad was born, was there Islam?
No.
What were the people doing? They didn't know God?
So
Are they the
is
ones
that
who
whole
introduced? Are they the ones who
condemned?
introduced God
Is that whole
to the
generation
societies?
condemned?
No, it is not condemned.
Are you getting
Because
the point?
Then people will be related to what they knew and how they were practicing it.
Yeah, and what is wrong with that?
What's the
So-
problem?
And that is coming from somewhere.
Exactly.
And they built those belief systems based on their own experiences, and it worked for them.
Now,
So what the point I'm trying to make is this. For us as Africans, anything religion is about colonization. And colonization is about weakening you, making you weak so that they can dominate.
and we'll have an example.
You. It's as
We'll have
simple as
evidence
that.
we'll have evidence
And
to
then
that,
when
actually.
the missionaries were coming to Congo, Leopold made it clear to them, don't go and do what
Think
you have
this-
been trained to do.
Yes.
Your purpose is to go and prepare the way for the administrators to come.
Yes.
And that was done very well.
Exactly. With strict, specific instructions. Even if you visit them, if they visit you, don't give them chairs to sit on. Make sure they confess what is going on in their communities.
Yeah.
Set up a confession. That is a spy network.
Came
go.
around.
So now religious became weaponized.
It is still a weapon.
Still a weapon.
Now,
And when I hear the conversation going into the direction that Christianity is an African thing, no, it's not there. I don't think Christianity was brought to us. Are you getting me? You go to every village. Go to every village. You find a religious building. If it's not a mosque, it is a. But none of them have community centers. The Bible has been translated into every African language. Why not the science books and the mathematics books? What is the purpose? That is when Marx said, religion is the opium of the mind.
now, of course, we time that will not allow us. But the last episode, the other episode, we talked about religion. We were looking at religion, Christianity, Islam, and we were trying to break down all these aspects too, so that a person can understand whether he's in a belief as a religious person or as a Muslim person. Is it to do with the beliefs and traditions of the originators of this religion? But now let's come back to this, to your point of before Christ, the Christianity, and before Muhammad, as with the Islam. It is believed, and of course even in practice, it would have been very, very hard if Africans didn't know God. That when we now read this from the books, of course, when Jesus himself was born, and he was supposed to be killed, and he was brought to Africa as a sanctuary, a safe place. Did that place have religion?
But even before that, Africa meaning what? Way.
Jesus Christ.
The reason as to why we even make the argument that Christianity is probably African, which my brother is contesting, and he tends to persuade me in his school of thought. We have to ask, of course, for me, against the background of authorities like our brother, when you look at the writings of our senior brother, Cheikh Anta Diop. Cheikh Anta Diop, who is the fountain of Ajugabre, with Dr. Clark, Cheikh Anta Diop, the fountain of the history of Africa.
Exactly.
You get the sense that even this Christianity, which the white man so fondly talks about as his most prized export to Africa, was actually around that the Persian region, going all down way to Egypt.
Middle East.
Just a minute. So where is Egypt?
No, it's not our thing.
Is it? Where is Egypt? So if we take Cheikh Anta Diop as an authority in our history, be it religious history, be it spiritual history, be it any other form of history, when you look at, because he goes ahead to persuade us that, look, even this education, which we so much praise, these universities, the University of Timbuktu was around, is it Mali, present day, Mali,
yeah.
You see? So that's how we come up to say, look, even what we have, although it is a complete diversion of what originally we knew, is even not, if we go by the name, is not the white man's thing.
Exactly.
The only difference being, like so many things which were stolen from us, and you look at the museum, you go to the museum one, and you look at what is in the European museums, especially here in the so-called Great Britain, it is all the artifacts of Africa. They are there in France, in London. What makes us think that if they could do that and they are still showing them in their different museums, they couldn't actually steer our own religion and rebrand it the way they wanted to rebrand it for purposes of weakening us. And indeed, I also agree with Comrade Kojo here when he talks about the missionaries moving alongside or preparing the coming
moving
of
ahead.
the colonialists, the administrators. They were actually together. I gave you a reference here of,
Sure.
of a setting in Cameroon, one of the set books in literature, which is called not Mission to Car by Mongopeti. It was Poor Christophe Bomba. Father Drummond and the administrator, when a man gets down, being hit by a tree branch, and he
has
goes
to wait until
confess.
it's finished.
Yes, he says, you tell the world how
Look,
many women you
look,
have. He
look,
says, I
Kojo.
have 3. You confess that you are going to remain with one. And you see, Mongopet was such a powerful guy. Until the man dies under the weight of that tree branch, to show you that what Africa stood for has died.
Ndugu Kojo.
Yeah.
So now we see this happening to the Africans, that the Africans are quietly but aggressively losing track of their own being and existence. Now, who takes blame for this? Is it the Africans who cannot stick to the issues that bring them together, like Okonkwo said, or it is the influence which is so powerful that Africans cannot withstand?
You see, when you have a vehicle and it gets spoiled, if you don't fix it, it will get rotten where you have left it. True?
Yes.
Africa's problem needs to be fixed. And one of the challenges we have is religion. Why religion? All the people, including the Chinese and the Russians and the Arabs and the Europeans who are coming to Africa, at any given time in life, they are coming not because of the Africans, people. They are coming because of Africa, the resources of the African people.
That's true.
We need to teach that in our classrooms. That there is no one who is coming to Africa because they love Africans so much and want to see Africans move from where they are to wherever they want to be. That is not the reason. And we need to understand and accept that. Now, if everybody is coming because of our resources, what do we need to know? We need to decolonize. We need to minimize, bring that external influence, you know, which is an attack on our sovereignty. Our biggest problem is that we are not sovereign. We are not in control, we are not in charge, we don't have the power to control anything that we have. Not even our educational system, not even our own knowledge.
I'm not stopping
not
you.
even our resources.
I'm not stopping you at that, but building on the sovereignty and not being in charge of our affairs, I think, and Ndugu Lugarama, you bear me witness on even this one. The conflict between Kagame and Tshisekedi has ended up with the Trump.
Trump, yeah. Why should it be Trump?
And Trump is going to get it wrong.
No, the
Without
point-
necessarily
you
wanting
see-
to go there, because it's not the topic for today, I can assure you, as long as the guarantor of peace in DRC, Eastern DRC, if you want to be specific, is not well defined. And like Kojo said here, the truth of the matter is that whoever is coming, not from within us, coming from without, outside there, is coming because of our resources.
He has a
That
point.
includes somebody who came to bring these various religions, be it whatever religion
Everything
you
you
want to
see,
look at.
the military bases, everything
All
you
this
see
you
is about
see.
our
He was on
resources,
his
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yes, I just interject that.
Let me just quickly say that it is not Trump's business to come and say he's mediating between any two African people. If the colonial arrangement did not put these barriers, Congo will not be fighting Rwanda today. Right?
But why are we not seeing that ourselves?
No, the truth of the matter is this. In the Berlin Conference, where the continent was divided, it was not divided because of the African people. It was divided because of the resources of the people of Africa. Now, how did they do it? How did it come about? I said it in one of my videos. They started fighting each other here over resources. And Otto von Bismarck was like, look, guys, that is not okay for us. If we want to stay there for a long time, let's meet, let's see who has influence, more influence,
he admitted that
in which
they are
area.
thieves,
Yeah, we're all thieves.
Yeah, let's understand this.
Let's not look bad
No.
before the people we are stealing
Yeah,
from.
don't let us look bad
Let's
before these
reorganize
people.
thieves.
Let's reorganize ourselves. So when they were drawing the lines, they did not consider the Samia people. They did not consider my tribe, the Ewe tribe. You find us in 4 countries in West Africa. So they just drew lines based on areas of influence. Now, after doing that, they needed to name these places. So they started naming them after the resources that were there. That's why you have Gold Coast, you have Ivory Coast. Are you getting the point? That is how these things were created. They are not ours. And as long as we continue to keep them, we will never develop.
Yeah,
There are barriers.
But now
That is number one. Then today we have what they call the African Union. You ask me, how do we get out of it? Who created it? Today, the Europeans are not here. So we have shifted into a neo-colonial arrangement. In the neo-colonial arrangement, they are not there, but their systems are running. One of them is religion. Another one is education. The third one is the kind of political system that we have. And if we don't decolonize by removing the boundaries, by aligning our knowledge to our resources, we should be teaching children in our school systems about our iron ore, our gold, our diamond, our water bodies, our environment. That is the kind of knowledge we need. We don't need the Canadian prairies. We don't need to know about the Queen of England when we don't know anything about ourselves. How do you develop if you don't know what you have?
As long as the Queen of England is
Are you
still
getting
the
the
head of
point?
the
So the whole
Commonwealth.
system is now running their agenda. They are no more the governors. But if we continue to keep these systems and not realign, we need to remove. Do we have a union in Africa? How come we have an institution called the African Union? Do we have a single currency, single passport, single border? We don't have any union. So what are we calling the African Union? What is it that we are calling the African Union? And if we really, really want to move forward and develop, we must be honest with ourselves and say these are not our creations. Why do we still have European legacies, colonial legacies spread everywhere on the continent? How do you call Nalubale Victoria?
The streets,
How do you
the
name
lakes.
streets after people who you have nothing to do with, who came and took you into slavery?
But at
And I
least,
think the catch there, which doctor is talking about, and which rhymes with our topic today, is this religion that we are talking about.
It's a pillar of
The
colonization.
moment we do not domesticate, the moment we do not go back to reinvent how we relate with our own God, the moment we continue to see God in the eyes of an Italian, of an English person, of a French person, it becomes very problematic because we continue to identify ourselves with our colonizer. Because religion, by the way, religion, correctly put, if we do not properly focus, we remain a tool of neocolonialism.
have you heard of the names of Charity Purity?
Tools of
A name.
name,
Yes.
purity, charity.
Charity,
Yes, all those names are there. And by the way, that too goes away to explain naming itself. The moment I have been listening to our senior brother, Professor Piero Mumba, who says he took his daughter for baptism. And the provost asked do you believe in baptism? Then professor said, no, I don't. He said, why? He said, because it is not biblical. At the level of this religion, it's even not there. He says, so why have you brought your daughter here? He says, because I know she's going to get hard time going forward, because she is going to interact with you, and the people would have passed here.
Let me give you my own experience. My daughter, I took my daughter to school when she was just about starting school. She doesn't have an English name. And when they were picking their names, she mentioned her names. And the teacher was like, but what is your English name? She said, I don't know. I don't know my English name.
I'm not English.
No, she just said, I don't. She was young, I think 4 years. She said, I don't know my English name. And the teacher was like, no, you must have an English name. She said, I don't know my English name.
I've already told you my
Those are my
name.
names.
That's my name.
The teacher got a piece of paper and wrote, dear parent, kindly send us your daughter's English name so that we can put her name in the school register. I said, wow. So I turned the back of the paper and I wrote, dear teacher, show me an English girl with an African name and I'll give my African daughter an English name. After that, I drove to the school, went to the headmaster. I said, I see a problem here.
A very big one.
And a very big problem.
We are laughing about these things.
Yeah, but that is the reality. I don't have an English name. And my daughter cannot.
Do you
have
need to have an
The
English
point
name?
is this.
You don't.
You, myself, him, all of us, we come from somewhere. And we come from our parents. And our parents come from their parents, and their parents, and their parents. That is what we call ancestry.
The food we eat.
If you do anything which is not coming from where you come from, you are lost.
The food we eat.
The music, the dance we have.
The name.
The
should be able to
names. Your
define
name must.
even our looks.
What
Can
is
you
the
imagine that the people who are changing?
Wait. What is the purpose of a name? Let's define that. The purpose of a name is to identify you. Now, if I mention my names, anybody who comes from where I come from will immediately start speaking our language.
Yes.
With me. It happened.
Exactly.
I was in a meeting. Sorry about that. I was in a meeting.
So
Let me finish that. I really want to finish that.
Because
Excuse me. I went for a meeting and there was somebody in the meeting that comes from where I come from. But it was an international meeting, people from different countries. When I introduced myself, he got up from his chair and greeted me in our language. That is the purpose of a name. Your name must show where you come from.
Yeah, because
and
if I talk,
it must come from your language. Other than that, if you have a name like you, that does not come from a name. That does not come from your language and cannot show where you come from, cannot identify you.
So if that God cannot know my name, if that God cannot understand my name,
it's not our God.
Cannot see my color and know I'm a black person. So I have to change.
Cannot identify me by my dress code. Cannot identify me by my name. I must be called James, I must be called Daniel in order to be seen by that particular God. That God must be the God of the person who gave me that name. And therefore cannot be my God.
Every African name has a meaning. Every African name has a meaning.
Viewer out
and
there,
you must be connected with your name.
It's getting interesting and hot inside here, but time is not on our side, so we will have to stop this program at this moment. But trust me, next week we shall continue from there to know. Does your God know your name? Does God identify you by your dress, or you have to dress like someone, by your color, or you have to change your color skin so that God can understand you, by your music, so that you have to have that music from elsewhere that God can know you? Now, these are the things that Africans need to begin thinking right now. And we must have a discussion, open discussion about this. Who is your God? Does your God know you by the things you do? Or you have to confirm, to change, to translate, so that God can understand the language. If you cannot pray in that language, you'll not be able to understand you. Then that God must be blind a bit to you as a person, or something must be wrong with you as a person with your God. We'll continue with this next week. I'm very happy today in the studio with my two gentlemen, Ndugu Rugarama and Ndugu Kojo, all the way from Ghana, and he's looking at issues of Africa as if he were an African elsewhere on the continent. We'll continue next week on Friday. Until then, have the best of the weekend and take care. Thank you.